All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should be used at the listener's discretion.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast. Out here, not in a campground, just in the driveway. So I'm very exposed today. My neighbors might walk by. Usually I'm in the garage or the office and I have a little bit of cover. This is definitely the most public this podcast has been. Start off by saying something very important. Rescue One CBD, one of my affiliates, was actually told by Instagram and Meta that they are shadow banned. He got a thing saying we're not showing your stuff anymore because you're talking about CBD. So his reach organically is all done. If he posts something, it goes nowhere. His views have dropped off. His exposure has completely dropped off. So I have a vested interest in this guy. He's one of my affiliates, but that's the honest part of it, right? I'm not going to hide and pretend like I got no interest in him doing well. But I've also interviewed him twice. He's my friend. He's doing a great job, and I believe in him and his product, so I want him to do well. So go to my website, go through the affiliate links tab, and you'll see Rescue One CBD, and go order some stuff, or just go to his website and share it on social media. Anything he shares isn't making it anywhere, but if you share stuff from his page, obviously it'll spread. So do me a favor, help him out for the time being while he's on lockdown, basically, by Meta, because he's doing great things. And if you have questions about the products or what he's doing or who he is or his company, go back and check out the episodes. It's all about, it's just an interview with him. John from Rescue One CBD. So the titles of the episodes are called Rescue One CBD is Changing the Game, and Still Changing the Game is the second one. It's just a repost of the first one. My other affiliate, Fourth Frontier Heart Rate Monitoring, they have a chest strap that I wear for all my training rides, and I'll be wearing for my big gravel race in August. The cool thing about their chest strap is it's the only one in the industry that has lead to EKG, so you can look back at it, look at your recording of your workout, and lead to has been tracked the entire time. So super cool, and I dig it. There's also a discount code for them on my website. Also, let's open up this episode with a terrible story, something I've never had to do before. I almost had to throw someone out of the kitchen a couple shifts ago now, after being a witness of one of the more horrific things I've ever seen in the fire department. We're having burritos, and so hopefully that brings your guard down a little bit from that intro. And I was showing the trend I saw on social media of putting everything in there and then turning it perpendicular and then dragging it back and folding it over. And this person I was sitting across from said, that looks too complicated. I'm just going to do it the way I always do it. And they positioned their burrito in front of them, lengthwise. Imagine you're reading a book, and the spine of the book is their burrito fillings. And then they took each side and folded it over as if they were turning pages of a book or like swaddling an infant. And for some reason, I almost threw up and just removed them from the station because I've never seen someone fold a burrito like that. It was so alarming because all I could think of for the rest of the time eating was like, there's no way this thing is staying together. There's no way you can create enough tension in the tortilla in that fashion to make this thing stay together. It was disgusting. It was confusing. I didn't like it. I didn't feel good. And I had to watch the person eat, which was even worse. Just be aware of that, guys. Those people are out there. They're monsters, but they live among us and they work among us. We can't discriminate against them, but we can certainly call them out for their actions. And I think that's important to do in today's society. So, in other words, in other news, what I want to talk about today is a little bit of workout stuff, a little bit of programming stuff, because I had a friend go to a gym, trying it out, and he sent me 2 days worth of workouts. And I told him, I said, I need some time to digest this because I haven't been in a group coaching atmosphere in years. I need to get back in that group coaching atmosphere and like what I would do if we had someone new coming into this workout and how it would be modified. So I asked a bunch of questions and it just resulted in frustration. It came off as lazy programming. They were trying to make people tired with volume alone, which means just doing more and more of the same thing. And that's how you would feel destroyed at the end of the workout, and that's how you felt value in your workout because you were just trashed. My issue with it, and I talked to Kurt about it also, was they had like 11 movements for the day, and 4 of them were in the warm-up. So that leaves 6, 7 for 2 complexes and some conditioning, okay? Of those 7 remaining movements, 4 of them were the same movement pattern. So it was a squat pattern. So one was squats, one was front squats, one was power cleans, one was burpees, and then there was like a thruster. So it's 5. It was frustrating because you're just doing the same thing over and over again in different portions of the rep range, but you're not doing anything different. So by the time it's done, you haven't done 10 squats and 5 burpees and 15 thrusters. You've done 30 squats, and your volume just goes through the roof, and it knocks you down for the rest of the day. Not to mention that if you have any sort of power movement in there, that's a squat pattern, you're taking away your ability to do that power movement or that squat pattern, the true squat pattern, well. It's frustrating. The next day he sent me same numbers, like 11, 12 movements, 4 or 5 in the warm-up. Of the 6 or 7 left over, at least 4 of those were an overhead press movement. So you had, or an overhead movement, I should say. You had like some sort of kipping variation, which, another argument, you had overhead press, single dumbbell snatch, and then a toes to bar. You had 4 out of your 7 movements with your arms over your head. That amount of wear and tear, that amount of usage of the same movement pattern is not right for a majority of the population. So digging in a little bit, he said, well, the guy that programs this is a heavy CrossFit guy. He's a competitor. This is how he works out. And I said, well, that's the problem. Remember that Wayne Gretzky was a terrible coach. Fantastic player, great analyst, terrible coach. Okay? The best athletes are not always the best coaches. It's like jumping into a Tour de France training schedule because that's what they do and that's the volume and the distances they do. And you're like, hey, I'm here for my free trial. And they're like, good, we're doing 150 miles today through the mountains. It's fine for them, but they're going to program if they're not completely adept to coaching and scaling stuff towards the regular human. They're just going to default to what they're doing, and what they're doing is going to end up hurting a lot of people or being inappropriate or burning people out. Now, it does sound like this gym was able to modify a lot of stuff for the workout for this guy, but here's my argument is if you have someone new, why would you let them fail at 4 or 5 things and then have to modify them late in the game? Why wouldn't you put the work in early, be like, off the bat, hey, you're not going to do this, I know you have this injury, you're going to do that, we're going to change this around, don't worry about what they're doing, you're going to do this version of this thing, it's the same thing, we're just going to take some leverage off you so it's not as potentially destructive. That's an amazing thing to do as a coach, is have that foresight to look ahead, know the people you're dealing with, and say, same muscles are going to be used, same movement patterns are going to be used, but we're going to take away some leverage and some intensity so that your body doesn't react adversely to this. Remember, I said this a long time ago, it just made me think of it, react adversely. There's this principle in strength and conditioning, and it's the SAID principle. And it says, it's SAID, specific adaptations to imposed demands. So if you want to get stronger and your imposed demand is 4 back squats at 90% of your max, the adaptation to that imposed demand is more muscle fiber breakdown, then more strength eventually down the road during your program. If you want to get better cardiovascularly, you impose the demand of more cardio intervals or long slow distance training or zone 2 stuff, and the adaptation, the specific adaptation to that is that you gain aerobic capacity. You can do stuff for longer while you're breathing heavy. But we have to remember that the SAID principle can also be negative as well. The specific adaptation to you doing so much squat movement pattern stuff or overhead movement pattern stuff might be an injury. That might be the specific adaptation. Your body will adapt, positive or negative, to the specific demands you're giving it. Okay? If you impose a demand that's beyond your body's capacity, the specific adaptation is going to be disaster or injury or failure. And we don't need that, really. So keep that in mind. The SAID principle, specific adaptation to imposed demands. Typically thought of as a positive thing, something to use to guide your training, but can also be very negative when the imposed demands are inappropriate. Okay, so it would be inappropriate, it would be irresponsible for me not to give you a few suggestions on how to look at workouts, program workouts. It's a complicated thing. You can get in the weeds very quickly with it, but I want to give you 2 things to map out, okay? Understanding of 2 things. I should just keep it to that. Supersets and compound sets. I call them just couplets. It's just easier to call them couplets. But if you break it down in old bodybuilding terms, there's supersets and compound sets. Now, people think supersets are like bench press directly into shoulder press. That's actually a compound set. You're building on 2 similar movement patterns or muscle groups. So it's a compound set. 15 bench press, 15 overhead press. You keep going back and forth and you just burn that chain out. Heavy volume, building muscle, it's all good, right? A superset is actually opposing muscle groups. These are some of my favorite things to program and some of the most effective full body things you can program. So if you need something to do that's short, use couplets and use supersets, and here it is. Squats and pull-ups, or squats and rows. Any kind of squat, goblet squat, barbell squat, double dumbbell front rack squat, and then ring rows, TRXTs, flies, pull-ups, flexed arm hang. You're working two different parts. The squats primarily work the quads. Okay, there's absolutely some hip and butt involvement in that, but the quads, front side of the body, and then back side would be the pulls. Okay, now that's two completely different sides. If you want to do like a more traditional bodybuilding one, it'd be like leg extensions and leg curls. So that's a fundamental one, single joint movement. But if you're thinking about full body stuff, you can go opposite halves of the body as well. Another one, classic couplet, classic superset, one of my favorites ever, deadlifts and push-ups. Favorite ever. Any kind of deadlift or hinge variation. It can be, if you're going for more volume and cardio stuff, it can be kettlebell swings. It can be hang power cleans. It can be deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, RDLs, any of that stuff. Any kind of hinge movement where your hips are bending more than your knees are bending, okay? And then push-ups, because if you think about deadlift, that's the whole back of your body. Calves, hamstrings, butt, lower back, upper back, back of your neck, all the way up the posterior chain. That's what's working on with your deadlifts. Then use the front of your body, push-ups. Obvious where that works, right? So those are two ways to get an incredible, short, succinct program in. You can do 8 deadlifts, 15 push-ups 4 times, and that can round out pretty much your quote-unquote strength work for the day, okay? And then you can add on a little bit faster, complex in the second part, like a 3 or 4 part negative split kind of thing, where it's either 30 seconds of work, 60 seconds of rest, or even 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of rest, just for like 6 to 8 to 10 minutes, so you get a little bit of burn in there and feel good about yourself and build your capacity, and then tack on some cardio at the end. Just a simple way to do it. Now, I'm saying all this because I do have a strength builder template in the works. It's one of the PDFs that's going to be coming out on my website as soon as I get it done, quite honestly. As soon as my friend and I iron them out and I stop dragging my feet, they'll be up there. So on the website, there will be a 14-ish PDF, a strength building template PDF, and also the daily dose PDF, so you can print them out or just reference them and check them out, or steal them so you can use them. They'll be free, and then you can have them. Then eventually maybe I'll build some other stuff that you can buy on there for like $3 or $4 or something like that, the cost of a coffee. If you do want to support the show, so let's wrap this thing up. If you do want to support the show, go to my website, go on the show notes page of the wherever you're listening or watching this, and hit the Buy Me a Coffee or the Support the Show link. It goes to a website that says Buy Chris a Coffee, and all it does is donate to the show directly. And it'd be awesome if you did that, because I appreciate it, and it sends a clear message that I'm talking about stuff you care about, or that you just don't hate the show. And we could all use a little bit of not hating stuff around this time of year. So let's all keep working on being more capable and durable on the job and away from it. If you have questions about this episode, reach out. I went over a lot of stuff real quick. Don't expect anybody to know it like down pat just after hearing it once, but just be cautious of what you're doing out there with fitness stuff, all right? If you have programs you're doing you want me to look over, send them over. I'm more than happy to audit a program for you based on your goals to see what's going on. If you want to become a personal training client of mine, I know it's late in the podcast and most people probably turn this off by now. That's one thing I forget to advertise constantly, but that's something I can do, is I use an app to deliver workouts, and then I kind of modify them based on your needs and wants and goals and equipment that you have to meet whatever you're trying to do. So reach out for that as well. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. Let's all keep working on being more capable and durable on the job and away from it. I'll talk to you soon, and be a fourth shift firefighter.